So here we are. We are back at Battery Park after just leaving UNATCO, and there are some bums living up here. One of them has given me the password and just says that the NSF is living with the mole people. The mole people being the bums that live underground, and the NSF is basically hiding among them. So we're going to go talk to this guy. Let's see what's in this little bad boy. A fire extinguisher. So here's Harley again. He gave us some information.
It wasn't a favor. I was well paid.
A real patriot.
I see it like this. It all balances out. UNATCO's just as much gun freaks as the militias, and if everybody's gonna shoot it out, fine, so long as neither side wins and takes over the whole country.
The goal of UNATCO is not conquest. It's the safety of ordinary people like yourself.
I know an army when I see one. Look, I'll be blunt. Got any cash? There's a secret passage behind that phone booth over there. For 500, I'll tell you where to get the code.
I already got the code to the phone booth, but thanks.
Now, I don't remember, I'm pretty sure I cut that out of the first part, just because it really didn't have any significant of lore. He just gives you a key to the statue in the very, very beginning of this game. But he is a UNATCO informant.
We think they're loading the Ambrosia onto a plane. You heard anything about that?
Nothing I could put a price on. UNATCO already thinks it's Juan Lebedev.
Lebedev?
I don't know who else it could be. He owns a whole terminal at LaGuardia. Manderley's been trying to bump him off for years.
Since when is LaGuardia for sale?
City had some debts a few years back. There's always a buyer. But Lebedev's small time. He can't buy off the big politicians like a Bob Page.
Who does he buy off?
People lower down, but useful. Some of your buddies at UNATCO, actually.
Who?
You can't afford that one.
So here he's actually a pretty... his name pops up a lot in Mankind Divided, the Juan Lebedev. So it's pretty significant that he's well off, but he's not, as he said, a Bob Page kind of wealthy.
Yeah, if it's Lebedev, you're gonna have a chance to be a hero. Manderley wants him dead.
So that's kind of that part. So here I am. I made it through the tunnels and am in the actual helipad where the NSF have actually stolen. We're actually in LaGuardia terminal that they talked about earlier with Lebedev, and was able to get through the tunnels okay. This is very interesting right here, so I'll leave this up for a second. But basically, it talks about the black helicopters that Jock, the person we met in the bar and has been flying us around, is actually flying. But here we have Justice Manderley basically saying that, oh, those aren't real. So it is kind of funny to see that. And Joe Green will actually meet. We'll meet him later in a bar, and I'll point him out. Nothing important on this computer, but there is something very important on this phone. If I type in 658-279.
It's Paul's brother.
Kill him. We can't take the chance.
I can talk to him.
Just get out of there. We lost the shipment, but you can still bring me a sample. A few milliliters is enough.
Trust me, he'll come over. UNATCO has a habit of over-indoctrinating their agents. It'll backfire, just like with Paul.
This socket is being monitored. Signing off.
So we see a Juan and a TT. And so Juan is Juan Lebedev, and TT we will actually meet later, but I'm going to go ahead and point him out because he was in Human Revolution, Missing Link, and things like that. But his name is Tracer Tong. And in Human Revolution, we meet his father, and we kind of see that Tracer's actually kind of a little bit of a prankster in actual Human Revolution. So we're going to be meeting him later, and we see that, the brother Paul, so something obviously is stirring. So here we are in LaGuardia Airport in Juan Lebedev's private hangar, and this is actually his 747 here. And we see what appears to be Paul Denton in the background. And if we even look over here, this is also very interesting that our crosshairs are now green on these NSF terrorists.
You can relax, JC. I told the troops to stand down. That's right. I'm working for the NSF. I'll meet you at the 747.
So it appears Paul may have switched sides.
Excellent work. I underestimated your abilities. You work for the NSF?
Listen to what I've got to say. We don't have much time.
You got that right. UNATCO will have a team here in a few minutes.
The Grey Death is a man-made virus.
Everyone up to the president is at UNATCO's mercy as long as UNATCO controls the supply of ambrosia.
You believe that?
We have proof. We need to get the ambrosia to Hong Kong. Heard of Tracer Tong? He can help us synthesize it ourselves.
You better step away from the jet. Your boss is my next objective.
Join us, JC. Talk to Lebedev. He can convince you. Get on the plane. We're almost ready to go.
Blackmail of the U.S. government could not possibly escape the notice of the United Nations.
Don't be so quick to trust the UN.
Are you kidding? The UN's about the only chance we've got these days. If the U.S. spirals into another civil war...
A pretext, nothing more. The whole project of world government, going back to the League of Nations, has been funded and manipulated mainly by wealthy bankers.
Is that so?
Remember that the UN itself was built on land donated by John D. Rockefeller. Get on board. A UNATCO security squad will be here any minute. The wealthy have always been the ones to profit from one world government.
The United Nations' secret goal... Well, this is David Rockefeller's description from a half a century ago. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers.
The UN was founded not to end war, but to gradually dissolve national governments and replace them with a globalist meritocracy. Average people never benefit from government and business on a scale they can't even understand.
So I think at this point, JC is kind of wondering if Paul has kind of lost his marbles. He's kind of, I almost wonder if he's thinking, is Paul turned into a conspiracy nut, things like that. Now, some people have contemplated that, you know, oh, JC would have just trusted Paul. And I don't really believe that. And you got to really think of the totality of the circumstances that we're in right now. One being that JC has just graduated the academy from UNATCO, and he's probably been raised the whole time from, you know, early on in his childhood that these guys are the terrorists and that UNATCO is the peacekeepers. And when you think about that, it could be a tough pill for JC to swallow, especially without further proof. So Paul does make a very, very big claim here that the Great Death was actually created. And if it was created, it's awful suspicious that the same person that possibly created it has the cure. And the cure is being basically underproduced on purpose so that they can control either governments, corporations, you know, whoever needs to be controlled. And so at this point, we are in Juan Lebedev's private quarters on his 747, and he is considered the financier, maybe even leader of the NSF. And Paul has wanted us to talk to him because he may have information that will better explain why Paul suddenly switched sides.
I surrender.
What?
Easy now, Agent. UNATCO has a policy against killing unarmed prisoners. We have much to learn from each other.
We're assuming control airfield. The vaccine will be returned to the international authorities.
Don't you want to hear why your brother came over to our side?
He makes his own decisions.
You know he wouldn't betray UNATCO without a reason.
Good work. Now finish the job.
He surrendered. He's an unarmed prisoner. UNATCO policy protects him.
Terminate the prisoner, Agent. If you are too afraid, you are ordered to return to base on Manderley's authority. There is a helicopter waiting.
So at this point, you have three options. You can kill Juan Lebedev, which is your orders. You can return to the helicopter and Anna Navarro will kill Juan Lebedev. Or there is my personal favorite. You can kill Anna Navarro. So yes, I did just kill one of my own, and those of you that are always playing the pacifist route have probably just shed a lot of tears. But there's a very significant story aspect that you would not get unless you are able to talk to Juan Lebedev for the second time.
I guess Paul must have convinced you.
All right. We're alone. If you have proof of a conspiracy, let's hear it.
The question you've got to ask, I'm surprised you haven't, is the obvious one. Who am I? Who made me, and for what purpose?
UNATCO has briefed me on my augmentations. Get to the point.
Your parents were murdered precisely because they could have told you the correct answer to that question.
That's a pretty big claim.
You didn't have parents. The ones you knew were employees. You were made by a cabal of technophiles so crazed for power that they would control not only governments and people, but the chemistry of our bodies as well.
Your proof?
You're the proof. You and Paul. When you get back to UNATCO, pay attention. Something's not right. You're really working for a group of conspirators called Majestic 12.
You expect me to believe there's a group of people powerful enough to control the United Nations?
The UN and UNATCO are just a couple of their tools.
So this is the first time we've been openly told about Majestic 12, and Juan Lebedev has a claim that basically Majestic 12 is at the very top, and then underneath of that is everything else, to include the United Nations and UNATCO. So Majestic 12 is basically the ones calling the shots. He also makes a claim that we, meaning JC and Paul, were actually created, and that our parents were employees of Majestic 12, and that they were actually murdered because he's making it almost seem as though they knew too much.
UNATCO has already occupied the airfield. Just go through the motions and report back to Liberty Island. I can't do anything for you here.
So, and another thing about Anna Navarre is that if we did not kill her here, we would have had to face her in a later part of this game. So it's one of those things that you just kind of pick your battles. But like I said, I killed her strictly because you have to talk to him again to get that very important piece of information that he gave us the second time.
Jesus, JC, that was Agent Navarre. She was out of line there about the execution, but oh my God. Manderley will have you shot. We have to erase the log files. I don't like this, but I'll protect you this time. I guess you have to stand up for what you believe.
So Alex Jacobson is going to erase the archives because if Manderley or anybody else found out that we killed Anna Navarre, we would obviously be shot, terminated, whatever. And Paul is already in hot water enough as it is. And being that I am Paul's brother, people probably have their doubts already. Now think of the info link that he just contacted us on. Think of that almost like a GoPro, where it kind of will record everything that we are doing. So obviously if somebody tapped in, they could see exactly what we just did in that situation.
See to the helipad. We know your brother was here. He is gone, but we will find him.
So here we are about to leave the airfield, and there's our helicopter ride back. But here is Gunther, and I wanted to go over a few things of him before I left this area. You can tell there's a lot of animosity between him and Paul, and it could be a twofold type of problem. One, old school versus new school agent. And what I mean by that is you can totally tell that Gunther is augmented, whereas JC and Paul almost look pretty human. You can barely tell that they have augmentations on the surface. And I'm not saying you can't tell at all, but I'm just saying it's much more subtle compared to Gunther. Also, Paul is more of a pacifist and in his approach to things, and he doesn't like to just go guns blazing into everything. He kind of thinks about things as like, hey, maybe there's a better way. We don't need to actually kill all these people. And that doesn't go over well with a lot of people like Gunther and UNATCO as a whole and Majestic 12, because they like this undying loyalty, unquestioning type of things, just follow orders blindly. So there's a little bit of a conflict.
Manderley has assigned me the peacekeeping occupation of the airport.
Standard procedure, it appears. I'm sure we can count on you.
I want to be the one to execute Lebedev.
Yeah, well, there was shooting on the 747. I didn't see what happened. Maybe Anna beat you to it.
I will investigate. You might need backup.
Hey, about my brother.
A shame that we have to track down and kill one of our most advanced agents. At least we have one of you left.
Don't you think we should give Paul a chance to explain himself? He's been with UNATCO for years.
Only one thing can happen when you break your oath to the Coalition. I will be truthful. I have requested the assignment of the Paul Denton assassination. Again, they ignore me. Again, they think they have a better punishment for a traitor than a shotgun to the head. I will do it myself, even if they say to get him alive. I was the one who warned them a year ago not to trust Paul Denton.
So you can see Gunther's feelings towards Paul, even though Paul has been at the academy for probably around 10 years, because you got to realize how much older Paul is than JC. Paul is about 15 years older. He's probably been with the agency, like I said, for about 10 years. And the fact that they're just ready to discount it so suddenly without even hearing Paul out, I think this is kind of the turning point for JC, and he's wondering, why is nobody taking my brother seriously? Why is nobody hearing him out and they're just ready to kill him, basically?
Gunther told me about Paul.
It's true. Paul's been working for the NSF.
This is gonna shake up the coalition, JC. I don't know if you realized how important your brother was.
Coalition will recover. I'm not so worried about the coalition.
UN officials will probably get involved. You'll have to keep your head down if you're gonna come through this in one piece. Sure you're ready to head back to base?
I'm ready. Let's move out.
Get in.
So Jock has actually just dropped us off at UNATCO headquarters again, and we are to report to Manderley. We're here on Liberty Island, and this gate is obviously closed again. So
Manderley wants you to stop by his office. Don't sweat it if he chews you out. I think you made the right decision by not killing Lebedev.
Don't worry. Manderley calmed down when he heard they picked up Lebedev.
So here you see President Philip Meade. That's probably the president of the U.S. currently. And it's very interesting that Alex Jacobson kind of basically applauds us for not killing Lebedev. So that's very interesting, although we see that Manderley wants to see us pretty much immediately. And we hear from that troop that we just kind of spoke to that Manderley he basically calmed down once Juan Lebedev was picked up. So it sounds like he was obviously a very, very big target.
Manderley's blowing his top. You better go see him on...
So you can see Manderley's pretty mad. It's probably at me from what we can gather so far. I want to show this part off really quick. And this is Paul Denton's office right here. And before, if you remember, there's a lot of things in here. It was, his office. He kind of personalized it. But now everything is in boxes, and they basically are taking all of his stuff, and they basically discounted Paul. He's pretty much dead to the agency, is at least the feel you can get at this stage. And sadly, the only thing left is a picture of me and Paul, JC and Paul next to each other. Now there's some interesting things on these public access terminals. Here we see a write-up of the terrorist attack at LaGuardia that we were just at, and then we see another very interesting article here about Bob Page donating credits to clinics in New York, almost making him out in this to be a philanthropist. And we can even see this line right here, a gift from God. A very interesting perspective on Bob Page.
What kind of pain?
Behind the eyes, a sharp burning, almost electrical.
How's your bioelectric level?
It's always at 100%. I like to stay prepared.
That's probably it right there. Free radicals. You should charge your systems only when they've been significantly drained.
I wasn't informed of that.
It's a lot like an electric razor. If you leave it plugged in all the time, the battery loses its 0 point. Just watch your levels.
Interesting. Thanks, Doctor.
Let me know how it goes.
So here's an interesting little development. Once again, we see Walter Simons in the very beginning of the cutscene, and then he was at UNATCO interrogating prisoners, and here he is again with the doctor, and he's kind of going over his augmentations.
Get everybody patched up?
I did my best. You're looking good.
Never felt better.
They just dropped off a few liters of the ambrosia you recovered, by the way.
Good work out there, Denton. I want you to know, we will not let your brother's activity cast its shadow on you.
Yes, sir. I'm grateful for that. I just wish we'd found out sooner.
No harm done. We have you to take his place.
Is a few liters going to be enough?
Well, no one on staff's gonna catch Grey Death this month.
I saw you listening in. Yes, it's true. I have augmentations like yours.
Don't you work down in Washington?
Actually, I'm the director of FEMA.
Sounds like you wouldn't have much use for physical augmentations.
You underestimate the demands of my work. We deal with every sort of natural and unnatural disaster you can imagine.
But you're the director. You work behind a desk.
Am I behind a desk right now? No, I'm not. That's because we have a situation here in New York. I got to my position because I can fix things. You will see shortly, because as you have probably noticed yourself, this agency is broken and needs an overhaul.
What do you mean by overhaul?
You will receive a memo in a few days. I am still collecting data.
UNATCO was very effective this evening. We recaptured the shipment.
You don't have to worry, Agent. It's the softer elements I am after.
Like who?
You're beginning to exceed your clearance. What are you? Angel OA?
Excuse my persistence. I'll wait for the memo.
Good. Carry on.
So obviously Angel OA is a certain level of clearance in this particular game, and we obviously do not have the particular clearance that Walter Simons is wanting to give us that information. Now, Walter Simons has a couple of very interesting things to say, and I think when we look back at what Juan Lebedev says when things aren't right at UNATCO, and he's talking about Majestic 12 and things like that, I think this is where the wheels start turning for JC. Why is the director of FEMA at UNATCO? Why is he so heavily augmented when he is basically a manager? And a lot of these other things, like, you know, what are you doing overhauling UNATCO? Is that really in your purview?
Paul said UNATCO uses the ambrosia supply to influence national governments. What do you think about that?
So it's true. He went over to the NSF.
He makes some sense. I spared his boss, Juan Lebedev.
What did Manderley say?
I didn't talk to him yet.
Oh, you better get to his office. He's not going to like that one bit. If there's a conspiracy, it's at VersaLife. They're the ones making money off the plague.
So it's funny that he just says that if there's a conspiracy, it's at VersaLife. And we know from Mankind Divided, which I don't know if I really agree with them just spilling the beans on that one, but VersaLife is owned by Bob Page. And if what Lebedev and all these people are, you know, and Paul are trying to say to us that the Great Death was created, well then VersaLife creating the plague stands to make, one, a lot of money, and the fact that they can control the supply and influence these very big governments or corporations and things like that, that's a major twist in what we have seen. Something I wanted to point out here, there is absolutely no mention, at least that I have seen, of Adam Jensen, Megan Reed, you know, a lot of these type of aspects from the original game. But if we look on here, we see an ADM. Possibly, I don't know, maybe Adam, and then we see an LMI, and I'm really stretching on that one, but maybe Limb Clinic. I know those have went bankrupt and they're basically no longer there, but I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I'll let you make your own conclusion on that a little bit. But
I can't believe it, JC. What got into Paul?
I guess he got a better offer.
What a blow. I don't know how we'll recover. It's almost like losing a son.
I don't understand it myself, but we've got to go on. Is Manderley available?
Go right in, JC. He has a lot to discuss.
Hell of a long shift.
Here, take your op bonus. 1,000. No use splitting hairs this time.
I have some bad news about Agent Navarro.
No shit. What the hell happened in there?
Lebedev. A surprise attack.
I find that hard to believe. You're digging your own grave if you cover up for your brother.
Yes, sir. I'm not covering up for Paul, sir.
Because he's gone, JC. I hope you'll understand this. The Coalition has shut down his augmentations and activated the kill switch.
Activated? What?
Some very important officials have become nervous. Nervous about Paul, but also about you.
I think I've proved myself. Can they really kill him by pressing a button?
Yes, and you too. So take these orders seriously. They're sending you to Hong Kong.
What about Paul? Will I get to see him again?
Please, just get your equipment and meet our pilot Jock at the helipad. You'll need to take out a man called Tracer Tong, Paul's contact in Hong Kong. Prove that they can trust you. JC?
Yes.
It's critical that they trust you.
so this is very interesting right here. The fact that, one, he mentions Tracer Tong. Two, I think the biggest thing is that he's really not buying the fact that we don't know what went on with Agent Anna Navarre. And he doesn't suspect that I killed him, meaning JC, but I think he feels that maybe Paul killed Anna and that I'm covering up for that. But thankfully he doesn't know, and he's given us the benefit of the doubt. Now he is talking about trust issues since we are the brother of Paul Denton. And he says that it's critical. So our next assignment is to go to Hong Kong and kill Tracer Tong. Now, if you remember from Human Revolution, Tracer Tong is the son of the Tong who is the leader of the Triads. And in that, we see that Tracer Tong is kind of a little bit of a...
Then what'd you do?
Troublemaker,
I chased him into the building.
And it's very, very interesting to see that develop. But we are to kill him. We don't really know a whole lot about him at this point in this particular series of the game.
What the hell were you thinking, JC?
Agent Navarro was out of line. I had no choice.
They'll have you killed. They won't even blink an eye.
Neither did I.
Well, watch what you say around Manderley. Let's leave it at that. I've been in contact with Gunther, by the way. No sign of your brother at the airport.
He sure caused his share of trouble. I don't know what to think anymore.
I wonder what it is he found out. Why he'd defect.
He thinks he has proof of a conspiracy.
Wild stuff, huh? I'd like to hear what he has to say. If you hear from him, or if you find out where he is, don't worry about the info link. I'll erase the archives.
You think he's right?
Worth hearing him out. I've never known Paul to make a mistake.
So this is interesting. We get a lot of cool, neat, different, whatever you want to consider it, perspectives. You know, Manderley is absolutely pissed. Walter Simons is absolutely, pissed at Paul. Alex is like, I've never known the guy to make a mistake. I want to hear what he has to say. And then we see the same thing with Dr. Reyes. And then we also see that with Jock as well. Like, he's a very important part of this organization. And we're starting to see a lot of the different opinions here.
How are you holding up?
Not so good. I don't know who to trust anymore.
No one blames you about Lebedev. You refused an order to kill in cold blood, precisely your duty as a UNATCO peacekeeper.
Manderley certainly does.
He'll cool down. The important thing is that you obey your conscience.
Right.
Tell me what you need, and I'll load you up.
I'll take the tranquilizer darts for the crossbow.
A man of tactics. I like that.
So even here with Sam Carter, we can see he was like, you refused an order to kill in cold blood. That's the official UNATCO policy. So he actually doesn't blame us. So it's very, very interesting, like I said. And you start to kind of see who your allies and your true friends are going to be throughout this game. So our orders from Manderley are to go to Hong Kong and kill Paul's contact, Tracer Tong. And this is a twofold kind of mission. One, it's to restore the agency's trust in me, JC Denton, and also to see obviously who he is, and he's obviously dangerous, and UNATCO wants Tracer Tong dead.
I'm taking you to New York.
My orders are to go to Hong Kong.
Your brother's in trouble. You need to meet him in Hell's Kitchen at the apartment.
What's wrong?
I'll let him speak for himself. He just wanted me to get you to the hotel.
So this is interesting as well. So our orders are actually go to Hong Kong, but Jock is like, hey, your brother's in trouble, so I'm going to take you there. So once again, we have another ally, if you will, within this, trying to help us out, trying to maybe see what the pieces of the puzzle actually are. So here we just landed. We took a little bit of a detour from where we're supposed to go in Hong Kong to Paul's apartment.
He doesn't have much time.
Your brother's hurt pretty bad. You'll find him at the apartment. If he can walk, get him to come with you. I can pick you guys up in Battery Park.
Is this kill switch real? What's it going to do to you?
I'm afraid that's, classified.
Manderley said you're going to die.
You've got to have God clearance to know. The nanites can be programmed for exponential growth.
There's a chopper that can take us to Hong Kong. You know Jock?
First, you're the only one that can help. I need to send the NSF distress code. UNATCO tracked Lebedev to the other NSF bases, and to Silhouette in France.
Go on.
UNATCO takes payoffs. Silhouette, the other terrorist groups, they're our allies.
I'm prepared to believe you. I killed Agent Navarra, and I'll join you against UNATCO, but I want proof. You want proof? Pay a visit to the NSF headquarters. Down in the basement, protected by booby traps, a data cube sits on the edge of a table. My report to the militia leaders. Here, I have a photograph of the building. It's a couple blocks to the west, behind the bar. And I suppose while I'm there, you want me to encrypt a signal with the NSF transmitter. Bypass UNATCO SIGINT? A lot of people could die. My friend Chad, for example, the leader of Silhouette. I'll check out the facility, but I can't promise I'll help the terrorists. Be ready to leave for Hong Kong when I get back.
So SIGINT, for those of you that don't know, is actually signal intelligence. So they're actually bypassing basically encryption is what he's talking about there.
You sure you're alright? No worse than a bad cold. What kills me is just that they have this kind of power. The power, yes, but the fact that it's been there from the beginning. A lot of things are starting to make sense. You remember Mom and Dad? You think they knew? Lebedev thought so. He said they were employees of the United Nations. They would never have agreed to anything like a kill switch. Remember, I knew them longer than you did, and after what Tong showed me, I'm pretty certain we don't have a stitch of DNA in common with either of our supposed parents. They've opened up the street behind the bar. The NSF base is on the other side of the tunnel.
So as you can see, he's starting to dig more and more into the past. You know, Mom and Dad. He remembers them obviously a lot longer than I did. So here we are. We have actually just left Paul's apartment, and he has told us to go get the proof in that
hell of a long shift
headquarters that we were already in when we had to clear out and actually destroy the generator earlier.
I thought they were shipping you off to Hong Kong.
Had to pack a few things. What's going on here?
Damage control. The NSF got their hands on some pretty sensitive material.
Probably had something to do with my two-faced brother.
Nothing we can't clean up.
Mind if I take a look around?
Go right ahead.
So JC's playing it pretty cool. He's actually not supposed to be in this area, so he's, you know, playing it off as, oh, my two-faced brother. But this UNATCO troop says something very interesting. He says, the NSF got their hands...
But what's it for?
That's a dumb question.
No, really. What does UNATCO need with that kind of money?
Just look around. Think UNATCO'd be handing out assault guns if funding was left to the UN?
Well...
The uniforms. If it wasn't for Simons, we'd still be wearing those little white helmets.
Yeah?
He's what they call a philanthropist.
Axe this file?
Yeah, all of it. The whole directory.
What I want to know is what he gets in return.
Don't you know what a philanthropist is?
Yeah, like Nietzsche.
No, a philanthropist. Giving to charity.
Oh.
And that's why he volunteered for FEMA, to help out after hurricanes and that kind of thing.
That's a lot of money to just give away.
Some people are just good, you know? Good to the bone.
So one of the UNATCO troops that I met out in the hallway there just said that Paul Denson was stealing balance sheets from UNATCO's accounting department. And then we actually come in here and we hear the conversation that Walter Simons, the director of FEMA, is a philanthropist, and he's been donating, you know, quote unquote, to the UNATCO funds, and they are so well funded and equipped now. And these guys are just thinking, oh, he's just such a good guy, and he volunteered to be in FEMA. But Walter Simons, the conversation we actually had in UNATCO headquarters with him, is that he got put in that position because he can fix things. So we're hearing some pretty conflicting things.
You shouldn't be in here.
So they already...
We're in the middle of something.
Kind of know that I'm not supposed to be in here. Now I kind of have to question the on that, because I don't think anybody would actually say that to me in real life. But what we see is basically they know I'm not supposed to be in here, and they kind of you kind of have that cloud above you of of Paul Denton's kind of actions. So I've made my way to the underground secret place underneath of the NSF kind of headquarters where we blew up that generator earlier, and this is the data cube that Paul has wanted me to get that has proof . And this is from JL, who is, we can basically put together, that is from Juan Lebedev there. And we can now send that signal that basically So here we are on top of the roof. I've already went to the very bottom, and we've gotten that sensitive data cube that Paul was talking about. Now he wants us to actually encrypt and send that signal.
I'm receiving confirmation that the signal went out. Silhouette in France. Come back to the apartment and let's clear out of New York.
Denton? Walton Simons here. What an expensive mistake you turned out to be. I ordered the troops to kill you because, frankly, I don't have the patience to wait for one of those damn kill switches to work.
Well, at this point, you kind of find it odd. Why did Walton Simons decide to make the order to kill me? That really doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. But at this point, UNATCO agents will be hostile towards you, and I'll go ahead and show you.
What? You! Stop right there!
And they will start killing you, as you can see. So Paul instructed us to meet him back at his apartment, and here we are right now. And there are some pretty interesting things you can do at this particular part, which I'll go over.
Your buddy Chad should have received the signal. Come on, UNATCO's after both of us.
Good. He'll be able to get his people to their base in the Paris catacombs. Did you find the records we collected on that weasel, Walton Simons?
I have a question about Simons. The instant I sent the signal, he ordered the troopers to hunt us down. Why does FEMA have authority over UNATCO? I thought FEMA was a domestic agency for flood relief and that sort of thing.
His authority doesn't come from FEMA. He's part of a secret organization, Majestic 12. We don't know much more than the name. They plan to use FEMA as part of a scheme to shut down the US government.
UNATCO! Come on, out the window. We'll meet Jock in Battery Park.
I can't manage the climb. You go ahead. The code to the gate they installed at the subway station is 6282.
I can't just leave you here.
Don't be a fool. Run!
Now at this point, you can actually just hide in here, but you'll actually be able to see the men in black here. And Paul can actually take care of himself, so if you actually hide in here, he will actually just destroy them. And then if you leave out the window, though, before the fight is over, Paul will actually die.
I'll be...
You can kind of shield yourself here. Now those men in black, the interesting thing about them is they explode. But we can see here...
He owes me a favor. You meet Jock in Battery Park.
And you can kind of see Paul has given up his pacifist ways. So in order to keep Paul alive, you do kind of have to follow him. The cool thing is Paul is actually invincible at this stage against UNATCO and Men in Black agents that we've met earlier. So we're going to let him just kind of thin these guys out, and then we're going to make a run for it. Now he's got a sword. Jesus.
Go. You don't have...
Yes, they are. So at that point, we just use some thermal ballistic armor, which is kind of neat. It's kind of like the cloak invisibility kind of augmentation that you get in Mankind Divided and in Human Revolution.
JC, I gotta take off. UNATCO troops are moving into the park. I'll land again when it looks safe.
Now, if we had not killed Anna Navarre in the LaGuardia airport in that hangar, she would actually be right here, right now. But we're going to go ahead and take the subway since she is out of the picture. So at this point, we have just gotten off the subway there, and we're running basically from UNATCO out of the hotel. Paul is actually going to be okay because we did stick with him. He will be able to get to safety. If we didn't stay in that room and we didn't stay with him that entire time, he would have actually died, and later on we would get to see him as a corpse, basically. And at this point, we are trying to run from UNATCO. We are fugitives of UNATCO. And interestingly enough, obviously we've made a very bad enemy in Walter Simons, who actually made the order to have us killed, which seems kind of odd still that the director of FEMA, we actually had a conversation, as you saw, with Paul about that.
There is no escape. You will surrender.
Another peacekeeping occupation?
Not any better. They expect us to take you and Paul alive.
So at this point, you have the option: you can surrender, or you can be a chance to be a hero, but each scenario will result in the same exact thing. So I am going to go ahead and surrender.
I surrender.
You are the one who killed Agent Navarre. Now you will confess and pay the price.
I got a little achievement there, apparently. So this is where I ended up. Unknown time, unknown location. And I appear to be in a cell.
I need you to escape. I can cut power to the door only a few seconds without being detected. Get ready.
So someone or something has just helped me out of this cell named Daedalus. And we've seen his name every time we hack a computer or something like that. We'll see the Daedalus network. So we, at this point, don't know what that is. We see an NSF terrorist in this block. And then what appears to be a Majestic 12 soldier over here. So very, very interesting kind of developments that have happened. And I think at this point, I'm going to leave it on a high note for this particular part of this series. And we're going to resume next part of this with what to see beyond and what did we get ourselves into, basically. I appreciate you for watching this far, and I hope this has been very, very informative as far as the backstory of Deus Ex. And I hope this was entertaining